Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Scotland and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel a good number of times before. These guys are getting a lot of hype at the moment, and on the basis of my previous reviews that I've done from them, I would say it is really well justified actually. I've had some great beers from these guys over the last little while, and I think this is review number 7 or 8 that I'm doing from them if memory serves me correctly. So for this review then we are going to head through to Edinburgh once again, although I guess you could say Dundee for this brewery. And we're going to have a look at another beer from Vault City Brewing. So this one is called the Yuzu Galaxy. It comes in at 8.8% ABV, so this is one of the heavier ones that I've had from them, of course. And as the name suggests, this is a Yuzu-based sour beer with some Australian Galaxy hops added to the brew. But looking at the malt list and things that's on this one, it has malted wheat and oats listed in the brew. So I'm guessing that this one will be one of these kind of big, smooth, sort of oaty, creamy type sours, and it certainly looks pretty damn hazy when you look at it through the bottle as well. But yeah, very, very curious to see how this one turns out. This is the third and final of the 3 Vault City beers that you're going to see on this particular cycle of Scottish beer reviews, but you will definitely see more from these guys at some stage in the future, probably when I'm back home in February or September again. Maybe we'll get some through Systembolaget again in Sweden, which would be very, very nice. But yeah, this is one that I saw on social media, and I knew that if I was able to get a hold of this one, I was going to be reviewing it, and I got quite lucky, and they still had a few bottles of it left on the House of Trembling Madness web shop from down in York in England. So this beer has been down to York in England, and then it's been brought back to Scotland. So it's been on a wee bit of a journey, but I'm sure it will still be in a nice condition actually. But yeah, I wanted to try this one mainly because of my connections to Japan. I love the yuzu sauces and things like that they use in Japanese cooking. So yeah, this is one that I just really wanted to have a go of. You don't find too many yuzu beers these days, and I think in the entire history of the channel I've maybe reviewed about 8 or so of them, most of them coming from Japan of course. But yeah, definitely nice to feature Vault City Brewing on the channel once again. I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer, and as I say, I'm sure we'll get more from Vault City done in the fairly near future. But yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Vault City Brewing before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all of the Scottish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite a lot at the moment because I am enjoying a little bit of time at home in the motherland, and we will be back home in February and September again this year, so you will see quite a few Scottish beers reviewed over this year. But yeah, do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Vault City Brewing. So Vault City Brewing, as I've kind of mentioned to you already, were originally based in Edinburgh, and they were founded back in 2018 by Johnny Horn, Adele Wilkie and Stephen Smith Hay. So Johnny worked at the Hanging Bat in the city, which I do recommend that you go and check out, on Lothian Road at the kind of far end of Princes Street if you like. And you know, they've got some great beers in their little brew pub. It's some really good stuff in there. But basically Stephen and Adele were regular customers there, and then they became friends with Johnny. But Johnny was studying at the time, but he was also an avid home brewer, as was Stephen, and this was really where their kind of friendship was forged from. But the two began planning a brewery together, and then Adele contributed a lot to the ideas before she properly joined them. But Johnny was a great fan of Belgian lambics and sours, and this really rubbed off on Adele and Stephen, and they developed a taste for them as well. And they felt that there was a gap in the market in the Scottish beer scene for a sour beer brewery, and they decided that this was the direction that they were going to take. But initially they didn't think so much about making money, and basically they set up a glorified home brewing kit as their main brewery in Stephen and Adele's kitchen, and they began brewing weekly back in July of 2018. Over the last while, they've been attending a few different beer festivals and things like that. The first time I heard of this brewery was actually at Brewskival in Helsingborg, quite close to where I live in Skåne in Sweden. So yeah, I was quite surprised. I saw the name Vault City, looked it up on my phone and found out they were from Edinburgh. So yeah, that was pretty damn cool actually to see those guys over there. Very first time I encountered them. But they've basically been spreading the name getting this, spreading the word about their beers and producing some really, really good stuff. As of January 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 75 different kinds of beer, and most of their beer is brewed at 71 Brewing up in Dundee. Hence why I said earlier they are from Edinburgh, but you could also say Dundee for this brewery. I'm not sure if they do have plans to make their own brewery at some stage in Edinburgh, and that would be quite cool if they could do that. But obviously, when it comes to a sour beer brewery, it's floor space that you need. You obviously need to have a brew kit as well, but you've also got to have a lot of floor space for the barrels and things like that. But yeah, really, really interesting brewery. This one, I've had some great beers from these guys over the years. But the other thing to note about these guys is the brewery name. So the Vault City, or the Edinburgh Vaults, if you like, or the South Side Vaults as they were also known. Basically, they are like little arches in. Little arches under the Southside Bridge in Edinburgh, and these used to be, workshops and taverns and things back in the day. And it's a really quite historic part of the old town in Edinburgh, actually. So quite cool that they decided to name themselves after something like that. So yeah, cool to see that the Edinburgh beer scene is kind of growing up, sort of growing and thriving. Because for a long time it was Stewart Brewing that were the main guys in there, and their beer was always a little bit hard to get a hold of. But it is getting better. Actually, we are getting more of the Edinburgh beers here in the very centre of the country now, which is great. And obviously Vault City are a very welcome addition to the Scottish beer scene overall. The first dedicated sour brewery, and they're doing some great stuff. They're getting a lot of plaudits worldwide for what they're doing at the moment, and long may that continue. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Vault City Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all of the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork before we open it up. There you can see it is quite typical of what you would normally find from Vault City Brewing. I think this one is a very nice one, actually. The green sort of thing there, the green colour actually suits what you'd normally find from the yuzu fruit. It is just a plain gold bottle cap on this one. I'm sure I've actually had one or two that had this Vault City Brewing symbol on the top of them, actually. But yeah, it's 375 millilitres, this one. Green bottle. I can't remember if all of them have been green or whether some of them have been brown, come to think of it. But yeah, it says on the side here, Yuzu Galaxy, marvelling at the fruity aromatics of new age hops, we have uncovered a combination that could be hung in the stars as a constellation. Harnessing the power of Galaxy's tropical hop notes through dry hopping, electric Yuzu blasts off to stratospheric levels of vibrancy, a mouth-watering, otherworldly citrus blast. So yeah, I think this one will be pretty damn nice, actually. As I say, when I saw this, I knew that this was one of the ones that I wanted to try, but there's quite a lot of beers that I want to try from Vault City Brewing, but living over in Sweden, it's just a little bit difficult to do. I really want to get a hold of the Tayberry sour, actually, but I haven't seen that one available anywhere. So yeah, I'll need to maybe make a wee order or something like that of a few stouts and stuff like this, and then just have it delivered to the house in time for February. So hopefully in February I can review the Tayberry sour from these guys. That would be awesome, because that one has been on my list for a wee while too. But yeah, 8.8% ABV this one. It says on the ingredients list that there's wheat and oats in this one, so I've got a feeling this will be quite similar to the likes of the Duck Pond and the Morgendagens type sour beers that I've had from over in Sweden. This will be one of these big kind of thick, almost creamy type sours, I think, but we'll have a taste of it and see what we get. I think this one will be pretty good though, but let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting. Galaxy hop, of course, comes to you from Australia. It's about 14% alpha acid, if I remember rightly. Lovely big kind of pungent passion fruit notes. It can give you a lot of mango and pineapple and things like this as well. I think it's about 14% alpha acid or something. Galaxy is a little bit of a beast, actually. It's an awesome hop. But yeah, let's get the rest of this guy out and into the glass then. Let's do this. So yeah, is there much sediment in this one? Just a tiny little bit. So yeah, beer is still pretty damn fresh. But yeah, I've reviewed a couple of beers from these guys now. The Sour IPA version 2, I want to say. The Iron Brew Sour. Then we had the Farm to Fermenter Blueberry, I want to say. We had one of the Tropical Sours. And we also had the Double Crust Raspberry Pie, which was one of my Christmas Day reviews. So like I say, this is the third and final review that I'm doing from these guys this time. I think that's all the beers I've reviewed from them, right enough. But yeah, this is a brew that I will from now always keep an eye out for when I'm coming back home to Scotland for a little while. So yeah, definitely cool to have a few of their beers to review for you this time. Nice to get 3 of them done, and we will get more done in the future. Yeah, I do wonder if my fridge has been a little bit cold again, because you can see a few little bits of sediment just floating around in this one there, but it's all natural, it's not such a big deal. But if we shine the light through this beer, you can see it's a lovely kind of rich, this one is quite a rich kind of orangey. It's got a little bit of an orange tint to it, but it's like a mixed kind of fruit juice, this one actually. I like a mixed kind of tropical fruit juice, to be honest with you. I always like comparing these big hazy beers, mainly it's the New England IPAs, though I always like comparing these beers to different fruit juices. But you can see when we poured this beer, it just had a very, very kind of thin foamy layer sitting on top of it. There was a nice little bit of a foamy ring around the edge of the glass, but yeah, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass on this one, and a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of that head there. But I mean, overall, it does look pretty damn nice actually, and it does look pretty damn nice. But I think this one is going to be a little bit of a beast actually. 8.8%. This is one of the heavier beers I've had from them for sure. But yeah, lovely kind of rich tropical fruit juice type colour. This one, a kind of, yeah, sort of kind of ambery leaning New England IPA. Remember, when it comes to these beers, the things that determine the colour of your beer is, you know, whether you when it's sour beers, obviously you've got the fruit additions that play a factor in there. So probably the yuzu fruit is adding a little bit to the colour here. But usually, it's 1, the type of malts that you use, and 2, the length of boil that you use. The more and the longer that you boil the beer, the longer that you boil the beer, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you'll get a slightly darker colour out of it. And I would suspect, just from looking at this one, that it is a combination of the 2. But yeah, certainly looks the part for a kind of tropical fruit sour, I guess we could say. So yeah, let's have a closer look at the aroma of this one and see how we get on. Oh, that does smell nice. I'll tell you something though, it is pungent. You know, yuzu fruit is a very, very pungent thing. It almost smells a little bit... it almost smells a little bit more kind of limey, but it's got the real pungent, you know, it's got a real bit of pungency. It's got the same kind of pungency level as grapefruit. It's like a combination of lemon and lime, but just with a kind of grapefruity type pungency to it. It's really, really zesty actually. Yuzu. You get some really, really interesting Japanese foods that use yuzu. But yeah, I like how this one. I do like how this one goes together. Yeah, the yuzu dominates the aroma here, absolutely, and you would expect it to be honest. Remember, as I've said in previous sour beer reviews, I never really find sour beers, unless they're, you know, Flanders Reds or something like this, unless they're Flanders Reds, for me sour beers are always quite straight shooting in their aromas, to be honest with you, especially the kind of more wheat and oaty based ones like this. And this beer again is very straight shooting. It smells lovely. These sour beers are very straight shooting, not the most complex of things, but they do smell absolutely lovely. But this is definitely one of the most pungent sours I've had in terms of its aroma for quite a wee while. Absolutely. The aroma of that is very, very nice. So yeah, straight away with this one, you're going to get the yuzu punching its way out all the way. It's such a distinctive aroma. As I say, it's got the pungency of grapefruit, but a little bit of the sharpness of lemon, and it's overall, the kind of vibe of it is a little bit more kind of lemon and limey. It's a really, really interesting fruit, that. But yeah, the fruity side of this beer really is, it really does jump out of the glass at you. So very curious to see how that translates into the flavour, especially because most of the beers I've had from Vault City so far have had quite a smooth and sweet backbone to them. So I think it'll be a really interesting combination, this. But yeah, underneath that you can smell kind of a little bit of oaty thickness in there. You can smell a little bit, if you take the aroma in really deeply, you can get a little bit of bitiness from the wheat in this one. Yeah, you can get a wee bit of bitiness in the wheat in this one, but the malt, actually, it's difficult to get the malt out of this one just because of how powerful the yuzu is. You can smell 1 or 2 of the passion fruity notes and some of the smoothness, as I say, from the oats, and also a bit of a kind of softer passion fruit and mango-y kind of thing from the Galaxy. The beer does give the impression of a little bit of floral and grassy character as well, and I mean, the Galaxy hop is, you know, 14% alpha acid, so it is a little bit of a monster, to be quite honest with you. So you will get grassiness and floral aromaticity out of the beer, which is great. So it does have a bit of contrast to it, this one. But as I say, the aroma, when it comes to yuzu, if you put yuzu in a beer, unless it's very, very small amounts, which I don't think would be the case with Vault City. I think they like their fruit. They do like their fruit. You know, if you put it in to a beer like this, of course, the yuzu is going to dominate the aroma, and that's exactly what it's doing here. Not a bad thing, but just be prepared for that. You're not going to get too much in the way of the aroma with this one. Bit of wheaty bitiness, nice bit of oaty creaminess in there as well. Maybe one or two little hints of like a very slightly kind of, not biscuity, but a little bit of a kind of Werther's Original butter candy type thing. I do get a wee bit of that out of this one, but then the yuzu otherwise dominates, and you can just get some soft kind of mango and passion fruity type notes from the malty side of this one. So yeah, I like how this beer goes together in that sense. This is quite a quirky aroma in a lot of ways, but yeah, one of the more pungent sours I've come across in recent times. So if you do get the chance to try this one, definitely take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma of this. You will get some really lovely aromas out of these Vault City Brewing beers, so yeah, do spend the time that they deserve on that. But let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. This one is the Yuzu Galaxy, an 8.8% sour beer from Vault City Brewing, from Edinburgh, but also kind of from Dundee, I guess we could say, and I think this one is going to be pretty damn nice. But this is the third and final Vault City Brewing beer that you'll see in this cycle of Scottish beer reviews, but hopefully later in the year, in February or September, we can get hold of a few more. But let's get stuck into this one in the meantime. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Oh yeah, that's good. That is nice. Yeah, it's a lot. What I'll say straight away about this beer is, it's actually it's really, really nicely balanced. It is very, very nicely balanced, and that's one of the things I think that really makes Vault City stand out. Actually, is you get a lovely bit of maltiness out of the sour beers always from them, but then you get the fruits in there, and they're just always nice and juicy, and they give you just a little hint of sourness. Actually, these beers. These Vault City Brewing beers are almost like it's the Scottish sweet tooth, just in sour form almost. I've been talking about this a lot in videos recently. You know, it's the best Scottish beers, I think. Some of the best Scottish beers always tend to be a bit focused on the malt, and a lot of breweries, the Scottish breweries, I do think, pay attention to the malt bases quite heavily, to be honest with you. And I think it's the Scottish sweet tooth. We do appreciate malt in the country, obviously, because of the whisky heritage and things. And Vault City, I think they really do show you that the malty backbone that this beer has, I think, really brings out the fruits and stuff very, very nicely. But maybe it's just me. Maybe it's me that's a malt head and kind of interpreting the beers in that way. Who knows? But safe to say, it's another, it's just another banging beer, basically, from Vault City. This is cracking. And I mean, it really doesn't do anything surprising when you think about what it is. I mean, if you know Galaxy Hop and you know Yuzu fruit, it gives you exactly what you'd want. But it's just really well crafted, and that's what I've come to expect from Vault City. I mean, it's crazy that these guys are, what, about two and a half years old now, and they're putting out stuff like this. They've produced 75 different beers, and for a sour beer brewery, that level of how do we say, prolificness? So, yeah, prolificness is that level of prolificness, or I don't even know if that's a word. That's going to annoy me now. But yeah, the number of beers that these guys are churning out is fantastic, and the fact that they're all a really good quality just speaks volumes for these guys. They're going to go far, actually. I look forward to them starting up their own tap room and things like that. That would be the next stage for these guys, is to get a tap room going in Edinburgh, I would think. But yeah, it's a cracking beer, this one, absolutely. This one, as I said, my favourite one that I've had from these guys before would be the Iron Brew Sour, and that's a completely different sour to this one. That's a very candied sort of sour. This is probably my favourite sort of more fruity orientated one that I've had from these guys so far. But just be aware with this one, the yuzu is it is quite an acquired taste, to be quite honest with you. So this is one that it might, maybe this is one you would want to share with your friend rather than drink yourself if you're not used to yuzu. But for me, being familiar with this yuzu, it's absolutely lovely. But yeah, let's try and break down the flavour of this one then and see how we go. This is just awesome. But you know, we come to expect this from Vault City. Straight away across the middle of your palate, then you can feel a little bit of a sort of pale malty base there. In the middle third of your palate, you can definitely feel the nice oats there, the sort of smooth oaty side of things. In the centre of your palate, there is a wee bit of that kind of Werther's Original butter candy sort of thing in there. But not a lot, to be honest with you. The middle third of your palate is all about the the kind of Werther's Original type flavours. Actually, it's just the middle of your palate is really about the big oatiness, and then just a little bit of Werther's Original sitting on top of that. When you move into the back third of your palate, you can feel that the beer just thickens up a wee bit. That's when you're getting the wheat out of this one. So I'm pretty sure it's like a pale malty base. The oats are sort of smoothing the beer out in the middle third of your palate, and then in the back third of your palate, it's the wheat, and the wheat just has a wee tiny touch of bitiness in the as you move into the aftertaste at the very back of your palate. So yeah, it's a very straight shooting malt base for me. There's not too much else to report on it than that. There's maybe a little bit of Munich malt, or could it be Vienna malts or something like that. There is something that's just giving you a wee touch of that kind of brown sugary note in this one, and I'd be curious to know what it is. Could it be a bit of Maris Otter, but then Maris Otter would be a little bit more kind of grainy and biscuity than that. I don't know, but I do think there is a malt in this one that has just a little bit of a kind of brown sugary element to it, but that adds a nice, that's like the sweetness that this beer has, and I think the sweetness that Vault City Brewing like to put in their sours just offers a really nice contrast in the beers, and it gives them a real balance actually. So yeah, this beer I think is very, very nice. But yeah, it's, as I say, very straight shooting in terms of its flavour, but the thing for me with sour beers, as I've explained in other reviews, they usually are quite straightforward in their flavour profiles, but it's all about the transition that they make, because when you take them in, they're always really quite sharp and almost a little bit puckering, and it's all about how they kind of smoothen out and mellow out for me. That's what I like to look for from sour beers, and Vault City seem to nail this every time. Their beers come in and they've just got a little bit of sourness to them, and they just smoothen out and sweeten up really nicely. So yeah, these are quite malt heavy sours, I would say, and they are some of the sweeter sours that you're going to come across, but they're just, as I say, they're always beautifully executed. They're always very, very well done. So yeah, love this brewery, really do. But yeah, let's focus on the hoppy side of things then. In the back corners of the palate, there is a wee touch of earthiness to this one. As you move further forward, you get a wee bit of a herbal quality there, but as you move further forward on the sides of the palate, you do get a fair little bit of floral aromaticity out of the beer. And as you go round the front curve of the palate, there's a bit of grassiness in there, but you do have a real zestiness to it, but the yuzu is playing a role in that as well. So when it comes to the hops in this beer, I'd be curious to know what they're doing exactly. I mean, I would think that there would be a little bit of hop added to this one at the start of the boil. I think they would want, because this beer does feel as if it has a little touch of bitterness to it, and I would guess that that's done to balance the sheer potency and the sheer pungency of the yuzu fruit. Because, like I say, it is a beast of a thing. That yuzu fruit is an absolute beast of a thing. But yeah, you really get that in this beer, and I think I'd be curious to know, in a lot of sour beers, it's kind of the done thing to use slightly older hops so that it doesn't interfere too much with the sourness, because bitterness and sourness do almost kind of cancel each other out in a way. But this beer feels as if it maybe has had just a little bit of galaxy added in the boil. And remember, as you go across, as you kind of progress through the boil of the wort in the beer, if you put the hops in at the very beginning, you're going to get a hell of a lot of bitterness out of them. 100% of the hops contribution is going to be bitterness, but as you gradually progress through that, the bitterness contribution kind of fades away in favour of aroma and flavour. So I would think that the majority of hops in this one have been added within, you know, the last half hour of the boil or something. I'm really not sure how long they would boil the wort in a sour beer such as this. I would guess minimum would be 60 minutes, and maybe maximum would be about 90. You know, that's the same for a kind of New England type IPA, and I wouldn't see, I don't think it would be too different, to be quite honest with you, especially when this is a wheat and oat based sour beer actually. So yeah, I think there is a little bit of early addition hop in this one. You can tell because the beer does have a wee bit of bitterness and a bit of floral aromaticity to it. But I think, yeah, most of the hops, most of the galaxy in this beer will have been added in the later part of the boil with the beer. But yeah, let's focus on the fruity side of this beer, both from the actual yuzu and from the Galaxy hop itself. But yeah, the green component to this beer, I think, just adds quite a nice, just a nice kind of bit of depth to the beer, I guess we could say. And I think that's probably why I enjoy these Vault City beers quite a bit, because they do have a little bit of complexity about them. A lot of these more modern sours, if you like, the Berliner Weisses and the Goses and stuff, they don't use hops, and I think the beer loses something if you don't use hops in them. I think the hops just add a little bit more depth to the green side of the beer. But yeah, this one is just really beautifully done. So yeah, as I always say, when you add fruit into a beer, what you'll always notice is that it suppresses a little bit of the green side of the beer. And you definitely get that in this one. You can feel the yuzu just sort of spreading. It goes all the way around the kind of front sides of your tongue actually, and it sort of sits on top of that. There is quite a bit of floral aromaticity to this beer on the front corners of your palate, and you can feel the yuzu just sitting on top of that. There, but the yuzu, as I said, it's almost got the pungency of grapefruit to it, but it's a more sort of lemony type flavour. There is a wee bit of a kind of lime depth to I would say that the lemon type flavour from yuzu is a bit more forward, but it does have a wee bit of an almost kind of limey depth to it. But the thing that's really interesting about that is you can see that the yuzu dominates that, it dominates that kind of front third of the palate, but dominates that kind of front edge of the tongue. But then underneath that, you know, as you move into that front third of your palate, you can get the nice notes that you would expect of the Galaxy as well. As I always say, on that front third of your palate you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. If you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, you can definitely feel a little bit of passion fruit there, but very quickly as you move forward on the tongue it does become more soft and mango like, and then you get a wee bit of pineapple and papaya and things in there. But it adds, underneath that you've got a little bit of the oatiness. I think some of the oatiness from the middle third of your palate just creeps forward and you know, gives you the backbone to that hoppy, the hoppy part of the fruity component to this beer. So yeah, it's a really nice touch, that, and you will feel that more and more of the hoppy component in this beer comes out the further that you go into the aftertaste. But the thing, you know, the sort of sheer zestiness of the yuzu in this beer lingers there into the aftertaste, but you do get some of the floral notes from that Galaxy hop in there too actually, which is very, very nice. But yeah, this beer overall is very, very nice. This is quite a quirky one for me. I know the yuzu fruit quite well and I really enjoy it, and that's probably why I like this one so much. You know, beer is always subjective. Different people enjoy different things. Some of you might try this beer and just think, you know, it's a bit too zesty, if you like. But for me, this one is just great. I love this beer. This is probably my favourite fruit orientated sour that I've had from Yuzu from Vault City Brewing so far, the Yuzu Galaxy. This is very, very nicely done. I have to admit, I would be curious to see how Yuzu would behave with Idaho 7. I think Yuzu Idaho 7 could be a very interesting combination as well, and maybe Yuzu Cashmere. Yuzu Cashmere could be another one that would be really interesting, because, you know, the Cashmere hop has that melon and lemon lime type quality to it. I think that could be a really, really interesting combination. But maybe the thing with Galaxy is the contrast. You know, Idaho 7 would still offer you that tropical fruit contrast, but maybe the you know, maybe the Cashmere would be a bit too similar. I'm not quite sure. El Dorado would be another one I think that would work well with Yuzu, but I do hope they continue to play around with these kind of tropical fruits. Actually, Rakal from New Zealand would be another very good one for this. Getting lots of these tropical hop fruits in there. So yeah, I would recommend, if someone from Vault City's watching, try something similar to this with Rakal, another one with Idaho 7, and another one with El Dorado. Simcoe, you know, Yuzu Simcoe could be another very interesting thing as well. Actually, that would be a really straight shooting beer, because Simcoe's all about that kind of soft passion fruit. But yeah, this is a beautiful beer, and it gets a massive thumbs up from me. I really, really like this one actually. So yeah, huge thumbs up to Vault City for this one. As I say, my favourite fruit orientated sour I've had from these guys so far. But yeah, to be honest with you, I think that covers the flavour profile of this beer really well. The only thing we haven't really talked about is the impact of this beer, which I should have talked about at the beginning of the tasting section. So when you take the beer in, it does have a wee bit of, you know, sourness to it, but the sourness you get out of this beer is not tart. It's more zesty, if that makes sense. It's a real zesty sourness you get out of this beer, and that zestiness, you know, the as I say, the sheer zestiness of the yuzu just lingers there into the aftertaste, and it sits there on the very kind of front of the tongue almost. But yeah, I really like how this beer goes together. Just top stuff, as I say. Probably my favourite beer, along with the Iron Brew Sour. The Iron Brew Sour is at the sweeter end of the spectrum for this fruity side of things. This is my favourite fruit orientated beer so far, but I hope they play around with those hops that I've suggested at some stage. I would definitely need to try and get a hold of those for sure. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel of this beer then, what would we say about this? Yeah, this one is, this is, for a sour beer, it's one of the, it's not the thickest I've come across, but it's kind of right in the middle of the spectrum, to be honest with you. This has a real oiliness to it, this beer, for me, and a real kind of almost slickness, in a sense. So yeah, I would describe this as mid-bodied for a sour. It's definitely nowhere near as kind of thick and creamy as you're going to get from certain sour beer breweries. It's not like one of these kind of big, you know, sweet Gose or Berliner Weisse sort of things. It has a wee bit more of a kind of, could I say, a kettle sour type vibe about it. It definitely has a little bit more of that kind of thing to it, but the oats and wheat definitely add into this. But I think the yuzu at the same time is sort of the sheer zestiness of the yuzu, I think, makes this beer feel considerably lighter than it actually is. But yeah, this is a lovely, it's quite an oily sour, this one, for me, and almost, you know, it feels a bit lighter than it is because of that zestiness, but it's beautifully done. The malt base plays a really nice role in this one. It's very straight shooting, you know, oats, wheat, and a little bit of kind of brown sugary sweetness in there. It does have a wee bit of thickness in the malt base. There is a wee bit of hoppy bitterness to this beer. I would guess that you're talking maybe, you know, maybe about 15-20 IBUs, a sort of Hefeweizen level bitterness to this one, but this beer is all about the zest. It's not puckering at all, this beer, to be quite honest. It is far more around about the zest, but beautifully done, I have to say. And this is the best fruit orientated beer I've had from Vault City so far. So yeah, I hope that there's a Yuzu Simcoe, a Yuzu Idaho 7, Yuzu Rakal, and you know, possibly a Yuzu Kashmir could be a very, very interesting one as well. Yuzu Nelson Sauvin, could that work? Maybe, don't know. But yeah, lovely beer, this one, and I've thoroughly enjoyed reviewing this beer for you, so let's leave it there. The Yuzu Galaxy, an 8.8% fruited sour, yuzu sour from Vault City Brewing, based in Edinburgh, you know, founded in Edinburgh, I guess you could say, but these days brewing their beers at 71 Brewing in Dundee. Awesome stuff, and I've seriously enjoyed reviewing this one for you. This is one of the highlights of, this will be in the Beers of the Year 2021 list, I will definitely say that. This is really that good already. One of my early beers in 2021, but definitely one of the candidates for Beer of the Year already, I would think, in my opinion. As I say, beer is always subjective. But yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Vault City Brewing. As I said, this is the third and final beer that you'll see in this cycle of Scottish beer reviews from Vault City. But yeah, it's been awesome to review this, my favourite one so far. Let me know your own thoughts on the beer. As I said, check out Vault City Brewing if you haven't already. These guys are doing some awesome stuff. Let me know where you're drinking these beers as well. I'd love to figure out where exactly Vault City are putting their beers out to at the moment. But yeah, awesome stuff this. Yuzu Galaxy, 8.8% Yuzu Sour from Vault City Brewing from Edinburgh here in Scotland. Lovely stuff, and I highly recommend you check out this beer, and if you can't get hold of this beer, do just have something that you think sounds good from this brewery, because you will be in for a bit of a treat there. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and thank you for watching. Catch you guys on the next one.